Welcome back to our Introduction to Java series. This is the last section of our series where we're going to be learning about objects and classes in Java. So in the previous parts, we've learned how to do loops and methods and arrays and two-dimensional arrays. And these are useful tools in Java programming, but they're not sufficient for developing large-scale software systems. And that's where objects and classes come to play part. So a class defines properties and behaviors for objects, and objects are instances of classes during runtime. So you can think of a class as a template or a blueprint or maybe a contract that defines what an object's data fields and methods will be. And then that object is that instance of a class. So in our example, we are going to create a person class, and then each one of us is basically a person that's an object person. So we're an instance of the class person. So let's first create our package. This is part 8, so new package, part 8. And then let's create a class. And we're going to create the person class. So new Java class, person. So we are going to have a class called person. And it's going to hold data fields such as the age, which will be an integer, and a name, which would be a string. And then there'll be methods like get age, which will return age, so it returns an integer, and get name, which will return our string. So this is our class definition. So this is our class. These are the rules, the blueprint, if you wouldn't say, for our objects. And then individual persons would be an object, an instance of person. So we can have a person that is John Doe, and maybe he's 30 years old. So we would have person 1 who will be 30, and his name will be John Doe. And when we get age, we'll return 30, and when we get name, we return John Doe. And we can make another instance. Now it's completely separate from person 1. This could be person 2. Let's say their age is 25, and this is Jane Smith. So this is what we're going to be programming. So this is our classes. These are our objects. And objects are instances of a class. So going back to our code, let's create the class that's going to define those objects. So we've already said that we're going to have the data fields age and name. So we can define a class variable, private int age. Now this is a primitive type. Its default value is 0. And then we could define private string name, which this is an object, so its default value is null. So we wanted to have two methods. We wanted a method that returned the age and another method that returned the name. So public int, that's the return type, we're writing a method, get age, no parameters needed, and this will return our age variable. And then public string get name, taking no parameters as well, which will return our name. So in this case, if we define a main method and we make a new person object, and we call get age, this will return 0, and if we call get name, it will outprint null. So we can actually make a main method in our person class. So public static void main takes in string args. And now we want to instantiate a person. This is just a class. There is no person object automatically existing. So we can say person and then person1 equals new person. So this says create a new instance of the object person. And we'll get there in a second, but this is actually calling a constructor, which we haven't defined here. But even if you do not define a constructor, there is a constructor that exists implicitly that takes no parameters. So right now, just think about it as a new statement, creating a new object of the type, the class type person. So if we write some code to outprint our age and our name, we're going to get the results for our age being 0 and our name being null. So let's write those two lines. System.out.println person1.get age. And system.out.println person1.get name. So if we run this code, right click, run, we get the age being 0 and the name being null. So how do we set these values? And you can see that we can access age and name because within this main method, the main method is part of the class person. But in a little step further, I'm going to show you how you make this separate classes. So how could we set the age and name? We could make set properties. We could also make a constructor. Let's start with a constructor that has no parameters. So a constructor is a special kind of method that is invoked to create an object using the new operator. The constructor must have the same name as the class itself. It doesn't have any return type. It doesn't even return void. In our syntax, we would write public person, and we didn't want any parameters. So this is our constructor, public person, no parameters, and it's only invoked using the new operator. So constructors play a very important role in initializing our objects. So in this case, let's say that by default, if you make a new person, their age is 0 and their name is John Doe. So we can say age equals 0, name equals John Doe. If we rerun this code again, we will get our age outprinted and then the name outprinted as John Doe. And there you go. We have our age outprinted as 0 and the name is John Doe. We can also use constructors to pass arguments. So we can make another instructor because classes can have more than one constructor. So we can make one that's public person, and it passes the age and the name of the person. So in this case, I named our parameters age, which actually happens to be the same name as our class parameters. So what happens is this parameter shadows our class parameter. So in order to access this class variable's age, I must use the this keyword. So this dot age equals age. And the same thing for name. This dot name equals name. Let's add another example here, calling our person that will be passing the age and the name. So person2 equals new person, and it will pass the age as 25, and their name will be Jane Smith. And let's write our code to outprint their age and name. So let's outprint the person's name is 25 years old. So Jane Smith is 25 years old. System.out.println person2.getName is person2.getAge space years old, and then a semicolon at the end. And let's run this code and we'll see how that works. All right, so we have our first person with the default values, and then our second person with our set values through our constructor. So we've created a class and done our main method inside that class, but it does not have to be here. It can be separate. So I'm going to make a new Java class and call this person main. And I'm going to take our main method that we wrote here, just copy, and I'm going to delete it. I'm going to add it here. And now this is our person code separated from our main method. So if we run person main, and if you notice, person is no longer executable because person doesn't hold a main method in it, you cannot execute it. So if we right click and run person main, we get our same outprint. If you didn't do get age here and you were just explicitly accessing age, you can no longer access it. That's because we made age private, which was one of our access modifiers, and private prevents it from being accessed outside of the class. Public, though, on the other hand, these access modifiers that are public mean that we can access them outside of the person class, and that's why we can access get age and get name and the person constructor. So as you notice in this code, we have a new person with their own age and their own name, and another person with their own age and their own name. That's because the variables are shared at different points in memory, but you can make variables that share the same point in memory, and that's called a static variable. Static variables are shared by all objects of the class. So let's go back to our person class and let's make a static variable that will actually count the number of people. Private static int, and we'll call this number of people. So when a person gets created, we want to increment the number of people. So we can make number of people plus plus here and number of people plus plus here, since both of these constructors create a new person. This variable here is shared by all classes. So when our first person gets created, person 1, it's going to increment the number of people to 1. And then when person 2 is created, it's going to increment our number of people to 2. But I made this a private variable. So how can I get this number of people so I can see the total count afterwards? So let's use a static method. Static methods cannot access instance members of a class. So a static method can only access a static variable. So let's make public static int get number of people. And this can return our number of people. So let's check and see that our number of people is 2. Let's go back to our person main. We're going to do system.out.println person2.get number of people. And let's see what our total count of people is. 2. Let's double check this and make sure that person 1 also returns 2. And it's returning 2 as well. So to reiterate this again, a static variable shares the same spot in memory. So a static variable is shared amongst all instances of person. So now you've learned how to create classes and objects in Java. You can use your custom classes and objects to do all the things that we've already learned about in our previous parts, which is you can pass now person is a parameter in a method. You can also make an array of persons as well. So let's look at making an array of persons. So we can make person using our array. So this is an array of person. Call this people equals new person. And let's say they hold to 2. So now this is an array that we've already learned how to make. So we can make people at 1 equal to person 1. And we can make people at 1 be equal to our person 2. So just like an array of integers or an array of strings, this is an array of persons. And so each one of these is one of the person objects that we have defined. You can also make methods that take in that person object. So let's make a new method here that's going to outprint us the information about our person. So let's say public static void print person. And this will take in one person object. So we'll call this person P. Let's copy this line right here, which prints out the person name and how old they are. Copy it, and we're going to paste it. And we named our parameter P, so let's replace person2 with P. So this is going to do the exact same line of code here, but as a method, and now we're passing our custom class that we created as the parameter type. So let's replace this line with print person, and we pass in person2. Then let's run this code and make sure it outprints the exact same things it did before. And there we go. Exact same outprint as before. So you have now learned how to make custom classes in Java and create objects. You also know how to use them as in arrays or in methods. So you have completed the basics of Java, and now you are able to move forward into learning about object-oriented programming in Java. So you finished this series in the Introduction to Java, and your next step is to learn about object-oriented programming.